think we've just placed too much trust in the banking system all these years, just thinking like, oh, it's such a comfortable place and we're safe here and our money's in a magical place. And, it's just if you see these ads, like they make it seem like there's a comfy couch and come on in. But no, I think we have to be smarter, wiser. We have to be diversified and we have to be ready to pivot. So how are you going to pivot? Besides the cash in the bank, where are your assets and are you prepared if, things get really ugly and you need access to capital? Are you ready?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. We have brought back two fan favorites today. Our special guests are Daniela Cambone, the editor-at-large and anchor at Stansberry Research, and our good friend, David Morgan from the Morgan Report. Daniela and David, it's great to see you.
It's an honor to be back. Congratulations, guys, on all your success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First question for Daniela. You have $100,000 to invest, Daniela, and knowing everything you know and everyone you have interviewed, where would you put it all right now? You can only pick one: gold, silver, or Bitcoin. Which one do you pick?
Oh, you're killing me. I'm going to put it on the Morgan Report. How about that? Right now, I could only pick one. Wait, I have a few questions. Okay, I can only pick one.
Yeah.
What's the time frame for this investment?
What do you think, Jim?
We'll give you 3 years.
There we go. Better pick silver.
She can pick whatever she wants.
Nah, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'll just have to give out her phone number.
Can I call a friend? Can I call my... That is so hard.
You can call David Morgan. He's right here.
I mean, I gotta go with gold. I gotta just go with gold, guys.
Why?
That's good.
Give us an answer.
That's the best choice.
Is there a reason why?
I've been in gold for a long time, and that's what I feel most comfortable. I mean, gold or silver, that would have been my choices 3-year time span. But right now I've been focused on building the little nest egg for my twins, as you guys know, and I've been whatever money I get for them, I put it right into gold. So that's what I know, what I've lived with for a very long time. I feel very comfortable. I sleep well at night. So if I had $100,000, it would go to them, and I'd park it in gold because I know gold's day will come again. It's coming. It's coming. I feel it.
Well, that leads to the next question. The silver market has been tanking this past week. It's just been brutal. A lot of people crying online, on Twitter, on Reddit. Mr. Morgan, Miss Daniela, any sort of thoughts on, is this a bottom? It looks like we're sort of reaching the bottom of this channel. Is this something you'd tell people buy the dip or wait and see if it trades here for a while?
Well, based on your chart, it looks like it's bottoming. It's hard to know ahead of time, of course. I called the bottom. I just put in the recent premium service Morgan report that the bottom was in, and, be cautious, but, I'm pretty confident. And of course, as soon as I write the report, we get this trading that you're showing there, Jim. I still think that level is going to hold, but it may not. We'll find out. What I do know is it's a good value at this point. And if you're patient, and I know people get sick of hearing the word patient, but when we're in a monetary crisis, which we are witnessing before our eyes, a little bit of patience or a little more patience may pay off big in the not too distant future. I don't think we can go much further. And you don't need to load up on everything. And I just got to interject one more talking point, and this is, gold and silver. They're, most people that are in them, especially over the last few years, are pretty disappointed. Yet, as I said with Daniela, I think on our last interview, if you really are objective and you don't know anything about gold and silver, look at the last 20 years, it's outperformed everything. Mm-hmm. So gold has done its job of maintaining your wealth. The problem is if you bought it, at the 1900 level several years ago, when it's sitting at, under 1800 today, you are you could be extremely upset, especially if you buy too much. The thing about the silver and gold market, in my studied view, is it's like a fine recipe of balancing your portfolio. there's a certain amount that makes the flavors come out perfectly. But if you salt it too much, you've ruined the whole dish. So that may be a corny analogy, but the people that adhere to my long-term view that get that right amount are pretty happy because they sleep well at night. And it's not like everything, they bet their whole farm on what the silver price does.
Daniela, anything to add to that?
I mean, I bought silver around $5-8. So, and I continue to buy silver on the dips. I still think it's cheap. I still think, we're halfway away from, the nominal high of silver. So like I said, still, I don't, but again, like I've lived with precious metals for so long, so I don't panic at the dips. I feel very comfortable. I am one with the metals. So when I see these ebbs and flows, I'm in it for the long run. So it doesn't, I don't not sleep at night because of it. I just, take advantage of the dip and add to my stash here. So, yeah, when I saw a dip, I was a buyer of silver.
So, you interview a lot of people, Daniela. So it's not just an objective interview. You actually really believe what you're, but in the concept of why we invest in these things. It's not just a job for you. You live it also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Daniela, you probably sit down with almost everyone in the macro finance and even in the mining sector. So how do you know whether what they are talking about is just hype?
Look, I think I've been long enough in this space, like David, that people's agendas. Like, we know the promoters, and they're always going to come out and promote whatever they need to promote. And then, I'm not just saying it because David's on, but he's one of the most objective. And he also holds a special place in my heart since he was my first interview ever when I started in commodity space. Side note. But he's extremely objective. So, when he tells me something, like in my last interview with him, and I think that's why I went so viral, and I think it's headed to 1 million views, is, when he was telling me, look, pay attention to what's really happening in the banks. I think that's why so many people listen to that, because David's not one who just comes out with these dire warnings. He's not doing it every week. When he does, we have to pay attention. So I think I know most of the players. I know most of their agendas. I try and bring a balanced view to my program. I like differing opinions. Mm-hmm. And I try and bring on people that I trust, and I want to share with my audience. Sometimes I bring on people that maybe I don't agree with, but I feel that's also important to show that side of the story. But yeah, I think I pretty much have a good grasp of understanding where people are coming from and their agendas right now.
Mr. Morgan, you probably have sort of the same issue. You're so well known for the Morgan report that a lot of these mining companies are probably coming at you, probably some of the more iffy ones also. How do you probably have to have a pretty large filter also to remove the hype. How do you do it?
Yeah, pretty much I do. I have a filter in the micro cap space. I pretty much have a threshold that you have to have, basically a market cap above this level and trading volume within this range. And usually I have what we call cutoff grade in the industry. My cutoff grade is pretty much 20 million ounces of silver, not silver equivalent, if it's a silver company, but along that same thinking in gold or potash or lithium or whatever. And you kind of know who's who. And, sometimes I'll just take a flyer, you might say, depending on, what's happening. And usually like at the conferences where there's so many, and I just ask them tough questions, but I'm fair, like what's the shares outstanding? What's your treasury look like? What's your burn rate like? What's your geo like? What's the officers like? Have you ever made a discovery before? That kind of thing. So, you don't really want to cut anybody out of the pattern. And I'll just go one step further, which is a little bit on the edge. In my industry, in my part of the business, where I look at the entire resource sector, I don't know how to say this, I'll say it in a general way. There could be people out there, let's say, with a very defined agenda that may be more interested in price movement than the resource space. And so I usually shy away from those people. But 3 or 4 years later, they may come out with one of the best resources out there. So in my situation, I got to be pretty careful. I don't like to burn any bridges because, the guy or the gal 3 years ago may stumble onto something. I'll be a little more gritty. I mean, I've seen a specific issue. I will not talk the name or the people, but they were basically out to pump something pretty well, and they made a really, really big discovery. So in my business, you never really know ahead of time what's going to happen. So you got to stay open-minded. Having said that, I try to put a threshold and repeating again to try to keep the people that trust me from getting hurt. So there you go.
You know, one of the other big issues that's been in the news lately is this whole Evergrande issue. And people are wondering if this limited to, is this a China only issue? Is this going to lead to some sort of credit freeze that trickles over internationally to all of us? I don't know if you guys have given a lot of thought to this. It's a lot of people are talking about it online. Daniela, have you got any opinions as to whether this is going to be something big that affects all of us?
Yeah, I think I covered that briefly a few weeks ago in an interview, and the guest I was speaking with said it would be really silly to not think this would not spill over into the US market. Usually whatever happens in China tends to make its way over here. So I definitely think it's something that we have to be prepared for. And I think, again, it talks to the point that David was raising in our latest interview, and not to plug that, but we have to, pay attention to what's happening in the banking system. And I think we have to be prepared that for any possibility, including, a freezing of funds. So diversification, not just putting all your eggs in one basket, not just believing and having complete blind faith in the banking system, I think is extremely important at this time.
Yeah, a lot of banks, own these bonds. They're junk bonds, and a lot of American investment banks have them. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we discover that they're stuffed into a lot of pension funds here in the United States. People chasing yield, which is what these provided for people. And it leads to what Mr. Morgan was saying. If the banks get hurt, not just the investment banks, but commercial banks also, could lead to those. What was it you guys were talking about? It was the bail-ins, right? The bank bail-ins. If banks start getting really stressed, these things start happening, and they start happening quickly. Mr. Morgan, have you given any thought to Evergrande and whether there's some contagion going on?
Yes, I actually put out an update yesterday for our members, our premium people, and I said that it's of grave concern, and it is going to, of course, be pervasive worldwide. I also cautioned putting too much worry into it, and of course, I've been, I'm paid to worry, but yeah. I get the feeling from my vast years in the industry, and it's a macro view. I mean, I look at the world global economy, and then I come down from there and hit into why precious metals are so important. Coming back to the question, I think this is the first big domino to fall since 2008 Lehman Brothers. And what I mean by that is this may be more of a Bear Stearns moment where it's very upsetting. It does hit the other markets. There is some movement throughout the sector, economically or financially, but it goes away after a month. And I think here's my analogy. It's the first big domino to fall again since 2008, and it's going to hit the next two. But as it falls, it hits the next two, and they are just rocking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They're in movement, but they haven't fallen yet for those two to hit the 4, to hit the 8, to hit 16, where we get this acceleration in the currency crisis. I see that further down the road. So this is sort of like a warning sign, you might say, that things are not good. And then a month goes by and it looks like things are back to normal, but those dominoes are still getting closer to falling over. And you want to be positioned before those dominoes fall over, because once they do, game is on. And as we've talked about on Daniela's last interview with me, there's so many opportunities for the banks to do things that are legal that are detrimental to you, meaning they could say, oh, of course, your $1 million is in the bank. It's right there, your name's on it, but you're restricted to only getting $500 per week out of your ATM. That's it. Those type of things. And that's happened, folks. That's not a made up, goofy story. from David Morgan. That's exactly what took place in Argentina in the 2000 financial crisis. So could it happen at your bank? It could. Will it happen? We don't know.
For David, there's been a lot of talks that there's going to be a state-led restructure of the company Evergrande. Do you think the government will step in Beijing?
Yeah, I think governments have taken over the financial system a long time ago. I mean, obviously the banks are on top of governments. I mean, basically banks control everything and politicians as well. But as far as the average citizen is concerned, governments are all powerful. They're not, but they don't know the subset. And so, yeah, I think the Chinese government will come in at the behest of being able to paper this thing over. But one of the issues with the whole fiat system is you can create something from nothing. So you can, digitize this debacle with a bunch of computer entries. But as Jim said, what's most important to think about in the longer term is that all banks are inextricably connected, which means, as I said, with the dominoes, once one goes, it's going to falter others and others and others. And you don't know how far down that goes or how far along a horizon that goes, but it goes and touches so many things you never think about. People that may think that they're safe with a certain, let's say, higher yield money market fund may be exposed to Evergrande and never even know it.
Yeah. Daniela, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I agree with David. I definitely think that the Chinese government would intervene and they can create a solution out of nothing. So that has to be prepared. But I absolutely also agree that once one bank starts tumbling, that just creates a ripple effect. And again, I just think that it's important for viewers and investors out there watching to be prepared for that scenario. And I think we've just placed too much trust in the banking system all these years, just thinking like, oh, it's such a comfortable place and we're safe here and our money's in a magical place. And it's just if you see these ads, like they make it seem like there's a comfy couch and come on in. But no, I think we have to be smarter, wiser. We have to be diversified and we have to be ready to pivot. So how are you going to pivot? Besides the cash in the bank, where are your assets and are you prepared if, things get really ugly and you need access to capital? Are you ready?
That leads to what you just said, Daniela. People get very comfortable. And I think that's part of the problem right now is everyone just has this belief that the Fed's always going to bail out the market. Final thoughts, Mr. Morgan?
No, not really. I just want to thank the community. I want to thank Daniela for having me as the first interview she ever did. And, I just want people to realize, as I've said, on a philosophical basis, money is important. But there are more important things. And we talked off record before we started the interview with Jim and Ivan and Daniela about family and how important that is. And in these very trying times, we've got to value things, and value of family is, in my view, priceless. Value of money, well, that's usually a digit on a screen or some hard currency in your pocket. But that's what I like to leave with, Jim.
Thank you. Daniela, any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, family for me is everything. It's my mom's birthday today. She is the center of my universe. So I'd love to just give a shout out to my mama, Franca. I love you.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful for shows like this. And I try and do the same with my show, is just educate people with information you can't find on mainstream media, which is just focused around U.S. equities. If you are in U.S. equities, that's great. But it is important to look at assets like silver, like gold, like the cryptos, that could potentially give you exit strategies outside of fiat. So just diversify. Don't just think in U.S. terms. Also think geographical diversification, asset diversification. And if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that anything is possible, anything can happen. And do you have a plan B? Are you prepared? Can you protect your family? That's the mode I'm in, especially now I'm in full mama bear mode with my two little ones. So yeah, be prepared. Just be prepared, be smart.
On that note, thank you very much.